It is Graham here, living the dream in 2020, and to get from our home here in sunny Liv'n to the gorgeous Sandals Grand Saint Lucia requires us to take two flights. The first of all from our home airport here in Glasgow in west central Scotland down to London Gatwick, and then the next day from London Gatwick across to Saint Lucia's Fiona International Airport. In this video, join Fiona and I as we travel on board EasyJet from Glasgow down to London Gatwick. Now, I normally wouldn't vlog these internal flights here in the United Kingdom, but it is October 2020. We are still in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, and I've got no idea what it's going to be like to travel by air during these strange times. So come and join Fiona and I as we take you on this 1 hour flight from Glasgow down to London Gatwick. Let's see what it's like. Very quickly, after being dropped off by the taxi on the ground floor of the main terminal car park at Glasgow Airport, you realise that things are not quite as they used to be. Remember that this video was shot on a Monday morning, and you would have expected Glasgow Airport's car park to be full by now, full of commuters en route to London, which you would see typically on a Monday morning, or any normal Monday morning at Glasgow Airport. So wearing our face masks to comply with Scottish and UK government regulations, Fiona and I made our way out of the car park and across the taxi rank area towards the main terminal at Glasgow Airport. And as you can imagine, as Fiona and I entered the terminal at Glasgow Airport, we had our next shock. This terminal was completely dead. I have never seen the terminal at Glasgow Airport this quiet on any day, never mind a Monday morning and the first day of the normal commuter week. Heading straight to the EasyJet check-in area, we realised that things were obviously not normal here either. There were staff there to assist us, but the check-in process was done via electronic kiosks, and yes guys, there was only one open for the entire EasyJet service this morning. I'm glad that the airport was so quiet this morning, and even more importantly, the EasyJet lines were very quiet as well, so Fiona and I were able to get to the check-in kiosk very quickly. Personally, I'm not convinced by these automated self-check-in terminals. First of all, we encountered a problem printing baggage labels, and then we encountered the pretty grumpy ground staff before finally getting everything sorted and on our way to security, which you'll understand I didn't film, which I can report was pretty fast given the low passenger volumes transiting the airport this morning. We didn't have long to wait in the departure area until our gate was announced for our flight down to London Gatwick, so Fiona and I headed to the East Pier, which is the normal pier where EasyJet depart here at Glasgow on domestic routes. As we make our way towards the East Pier, now is probably a good time to mention what went wrong between making the sim time video, which was number 148, and this video. Well guys, we were due to be travelling on the EasyJet at 3:30 this afternoon, but they cancelled the flight, and I didn't want to take the risk travelling down to London Gatwick on the last flight of the day, which would put our trip to Saint Lucia at risk. So that's why Fiona and I chose to take this 6:40 AM departure down to London Gatwick, boarding the aircraft in the dark. We would be taking off in the dark, making it very hard to produce decent content for this video. We had chosen chosen seats 3E and 3F on our EasyJet flight down to London Gatwick this morning. However, we needn't have bothered because EasyJet were operating a free-for-all this morning. So given their best efforts to create a social distancing environment during the coronavirus pandemic, yeah, that didn't work either. So Fiona and I sat back and tried our best to enjoy our first flight of the year down to London Gatwick. Following on Flight Radar 24, we departed runway 23 at Glasgow Airport, turning left shortly after takeoff, heading southbound towards the Lake District, Manchester and then Birmingham, where we would start our initial descent towards Gatwick, being vectored over Reading and then towards Brighton on the south coast of England, and finally westbound towards runway 26 left at London Gatwick Airport. And for those of you who are interested, this morning's aircraft was an Airbus A319. So at least I get something right in that sim time video. Anyway, back to our flight down to London Gatwick this morning, and normal service resumed. The lovely crew made their way through the cabin with a trolley service, selling coffee, tea, chocolate biscuits, etc, etc. Fiona and I chose a cup of coffee, a cup of tea and an orange twirl, while the English countryside passed below us. And less than an hour after departing Glasgow, the English Channel and the south coast of England came into view, as our EasyJet A319 was being vectored towards runway 26 left at London Gatwick Airport. As we taxied towards the North Terminal, it broke my heart to see all of these aircraft laid up, parked up, doing nothing. After all, planes should be in the sky, they should be ferrying people around the world. And my heart goes out to everyone working in the airline and the travel industry who have had their lives and their livelihoods turned upside down by this terrible pandemic. As we pulled up to our gate at Gatwick's North Terminal, I have to admit that my frustration with other passengers nearly boiled over. The fantastic EasyJet crew tried their best to persuade passengers to stay in their seats until called to deplane, but sadly the vast majority of our fellow passengers ignored this simple advice. And it is scenes like this which are a clear demonstrator of why the UK is suffering so much during phase 2 of this terrible coronavirus pandemic. The awesome crew on board EasyJet and the airport authorities here at London Gatwick can only do so much. It is down to us, the public, and of course the passengers, to do their bit to show some social distancing and some common sense, clearly something that far too many people simply don't have. Fiona and I therefore did what we could to protect ourselves as we transited the North Terminal. From here in baggage reclaim to the Premier Inn, where we will be spending the night ahead of our flight to Saint Lucia tomorrow on board British Airways. And of course, you can see that trip report in 2 videos time. And as we enter the Premier Inn at Gatwick's North Terminal, we bring to an end this trip report on board EasyJet from Glasgow down to London Gatwick. In our next video, Fiona and I will take you on a day trip into London to see what the UK's capital has to offer during the coronavirus pandemic. Until then, I will finish this video with a quick tour of our hotel room at the Premier Inn Gatwick North Terminal. I've always liked Premier Inns across the United Kingdom. The rooms are very well appointed, and while basic, they are functional, and the staff are always very cheery and helpful. So until our next video, thanks for watching.